Guys, welcome to our Hilula, our annual Hilula of Rashi. Right field, left field, center field, and the outfield. You like that, right? Infield too. Ah, I see this baseball guy over here. Ex-baseball guy. Ex. Tonight's shiur is sponsored L'Refuah Shelemat Avner Ben Yael. May he get up mimitat cholio. L'achzor b'tshuva shlema. Bracha v'atzlacha. See the chatuna of nechadav b'ezrat Hashem. And to the hatzlacha, to the anonymous sponsor, may Hashem bless him with bracha, hatzlacha, parnasa tova, yishod gedolot, shalom bayit, hatzlacha b'chinuch yeladim, b'chol medemeta v'chen yatzov v'nomar. Amen. Can I have your guys' attention for a couple of minutes? Usually Thursday night is our mishmar night. And he brought his tools. But tonight, my wife is at a seminary for the women. And chinuch yeladim. About 80 women are coming. There's this lady, I think she works for Aisha Torah, if I'm not mistaken. I think so. She has 13 children. 13. Everyone is, I think, a year apart. No, Ashkenazi. American lady, she moved to Israel. She works in Eretz Israel. So she also was a principal for a girls' school, that girls who went off the derech. Basically, this woman has a lot of experience, and she comes once a year to America to give like a seminar for one whole week, from Monday to Tuesday. Monday till next week Tuesday, 3 hours a night. So my wife, she's at the seminar right now, and I said to myself, I'm going to cancel the mishmar. Monday night I cannot cancel, so shiur kavua. But Thursday night, it's not so kavua yet. The Mishnah, it's kavua, but not so kavua. So I said, I'm going to take a night off, this, that, kids get a babysitter. Right when I thought that, Gabriel, believe it or not, somebody texts me, the anonymous sponsor. I'm not going to say who it was. He said, Thursday night you have a sponsor? I said, for what? For Rashi Silula. I'm thinking to myself, I'm here about to take a night off, and he's telling me, do Rashi Silula. Mamash, it was at the moment. And he said, if you need a sponsor, I got you. I said, if somebody already wants to give it from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's that. How can I say no? Would you say no? No. So here we are today. Maybe one of the few places in America that are doing right now a Hilula for Rashi HaKadosh. Maybe the only place. With the storm coming, everyone from New Jersey, from this, that, they all canceled their shiurim, but we're here tonight to commemorate, not just commemorate, to live the life of Moreinu V'Rabbeinu, Ateret Rosheinu, Rabban Shel Yisrael, Rabbi Shlomo Yitzhaki, Rashi HaKadosh. There's many things we could say about Rashi. Every year we do Hilula for him. But I want to put some points before I'm going to tell you from this amazing sefer called Mishnat Shemot HaChachamim. As you guys know, I'm a history buff. Just today, I went to the bookstore, Jewish bookstore. I bought an amazing 3-series volume by Rav Victor Miller on Jewish history. Cost me $55. It's such an amazing sefer by Rav Victor Miller. I suggest all of you guys to get it. Amazing. About history, Jewish history, from the beginning of time till the end of the Talmud. Anybody who really wants, it's a mitzvah from the Torah. What's the mitzvah? Zechor yomot olam binu shno dor vador. Sha'al avicha ve'yagetcha zekanecha ve'yomru. God, Moshe Rabbeinu in Parshat Azinu says, remember the days of time. Ask your grandfathers, ask your teachers. Know what happened to you in your life. Know your history. Yes. It's called Rav Victor Miller on Jewish history, something like that. It's a 3-part series. What's the specific name?
History of a Nation?
I think maybe History of a Nation. I think he got it.
Yeah.
History of a Nation. Mamash. But with Rav Victor Miller's specific point of view, I'm telling you something. I bought it. I went to the car. I read a couple of pages. I couldn't stop until I got to page 40. Till page 40, just straight in the car. That's how good it was. He explained the Chet of Adam HaRishon so amazingly, I couldn't stop reading about it. It's amazing. History sees. Anyways, to the point right now. when we get to Jewish people's history, we have to know there is 5, 6 chachamim every Jew must know. There is one big, this is the book. What's it called? A history series. Victor Miller. I want to let you guys know, in the Jewish history, there is 5, 6 chachamim that close down all the eras of Judaism. For example, Moshe Rabbeinu gave to Yoshua. It was last week's parasha, Gabriel. Moshe Rabbeinu gave to who? Yoshua. V'samach Moshe, he gave him smicha. Today we don't have smicha. Today we have smicha, quote unquote. But back then it was real smicha. Yoshua gave to the Skenim to the Anshe Knesset HaGdolah. Anshe Knesset HaGdolah, all the way down to the Zugot.
The pairs.
What are the Zugot? Do we know the Zugot, guys?
Yeah.
This is our Chachamim. Shimon HaTzaddik gave it to Antignos. Antignos to the two Rabbi Yosef. The two Rabbi Yosef to Yeshua ben Prachia, Yudah ben Tavai. All the way till Hillel veShammai. Hillel veShammai. By the way, JC was the student of who? Yeshua ben Prachia. Before Hillel and Shammai. That means this kook was walking around in Eretz Yisrael before Hillel and Shammai even said Hapshi. And the whole Gemara is basically what? Based on what? The machlokets of Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai. This guy was a nobody. The funny thing was, his name was the same as his Rebbe's name. Yoshua ben Prachia, and his name was really Yoshua. The Chachamim took the hay out of his name and made it into Yeshu. Anywho, after he led Shammai, the Torah all the way went down to whom? Who was the writer of the Mishnayot? The end of the Tanaic period was Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. He was the descendant of Hillel Hazaken. Hillel Hazaken, Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, passed it down to whom? To his students. His student, who was his student that passed it down? Rabbi Abba. Amar Rabbi Abba. Some say that's the Rabbi Abba in the Zohar. Some say Rabbi Abba. Abba, his name was. We call him in short Rav. Rabbi and Rav. Rabbi and Rav. Rav, he passed it down to his students. Who is his student? Rabbi Yehuda bar Yecheskel, the son of Yecheskel. He was Rosh Yeshiva Pumpadita. His yeshiva was Pumpadita. The Gemara was written where? Where was the Gemara? Our Gemara written? Where was it written? Pumpadita. I know in Babylon, it's called Talmud Bavli, but it was written in Pumpadita. After that, Rav Yehuda gave it to whom? Rav Yosef and Rava. Not Rava, Rava with a hey. Rav Yosef and Rava gave it to whom? This is the real meat and potatoes of the Gemara. Rav Yosef and Rava gave it to? No, this is right down your alley. Who's the two biggest names in the whole Talmud? The two biggest names. No, he's Mishnayot. Those are Mishnayot. Huh? Rav and Shmuel, that's first generation Amoraim. Big name. Who? Abaye and Rava. Abaye and Rava. The Gemara is actually called Havayot Abaye veRava. The discussions of Abaye and Rava. Abaye and Rava were the first ones to come and say, guys, the Torah is being forgotten again. Let's memorize the discussions our Rebbes had. They were the first ones to say that. But they never wrote anything. Never.
Oral.
Abaye and Rava passed it to their students, Rav Nachman, and to Ameimar. Ameimar and Rav Nachman passed it to Rav Yeshua, Rav Huna bar Rav Yeshua, and to Rav Papa, and they passed it down to the finishing of the Gemara. He still didn't write the Gemara. Rav Ashi.
What is it? Abaye Omer.
Abaye Omer, who? What does it mean, Abaye Omer? Rav Ashi did what Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi did. He said, you're a rabbi? You know a couple of lines of Gemara? Yes. You know a couple of lines of the last 400 years? Yes. You know. You guys, come, let's go to yeshiva together. He said, you from Pumpadita, you from Nehar Da'a, you from this yeshiva. He was very rich. They said from Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi to Rav Ashi, there wasn't richness and greatness in one table. Rav Ashi was the same level as Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. He gathered everyone together and he ruled for 40 years. A Rosh Yeshiva back then was not just a Rosh Yeshiva. A Rosh Yeshiva back then was a king. He was the ruler of Klal Yisrael for 40 years. He gathered everyone in Surah. And for 40 years, they sat down and they said, what did you remember? But what you said, you have the same thing you heard from Europe. But there's one line difference. What's the difference? And they all got together and they compiled what we know today is called a Talmud Bavli. But it still wasn't written down as a book, as a series of books. Who wrote it down? After not Rav Asi, but Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef. Ravanan Sevorae, or some call him Rav Yosa. He was the generation after the Amoraim. They said, guys, Rav Ashi, what did Rav Ashi do? Rav Ashi said, guys, from now on, nobody can make chidushim in halacha. That's it. Everything you say in halacha has to be based on what we call the oral Torah. And we're the end of the oral Torah. This one said amen, that one said amen, this one said amen. All the great chachamim came together in Mata Machasya Surah and said, that's it. We're the end of Hora'ah. Nobody can make chidushim anymore. I can't come and say, oh, I read the Torah like this. I think it means this, and I paskin in halacha. That's already done. When did that end? At the end of the era of Rav Ashi. He was for 40 years Rosh Yeshiva. When he was going to pass away, the Gemara recounts the story in Moed Katan. The Malach HaMavet comes to Rav Ashi and says to him, Rebbe, it's time to go. Do I have your permission to set sail? That's how it was. The Gemara in Moed Katan brings stories of rabbis that the Malach HaMavet asked permission, can I take your neshama?
That's a respect.
They were so powerful. For example, Rav Bevai, there was a rabbi, the Ashkenazim call him Rav Bibi. Rav Bibi Bar Abai. His name is not Rav Bibi. It's Rav Bevai. This Rav Bevai, the Gemara says, he was the best friend of the Malach HaMavet. They were buddies. He used to see him all that. That was Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. He used to see him, hey, what's going on? What did you do today? Any crazy stories? Like this, they were good friends. So, Rav Ashi, for example, the Gemara recounts stories. How does death feel? The Gemara asks in Moed Katan, how does death feel? Rava, I think it was Rava with an aleph. He said, my death felt like hair taking out of a milk. When you take hair out of a milk, like plop, it's like this, the neshama came out. So then they ask, do you want to go through it again? He says, I don't want to go through it again. Why? Just seeing the Malach HaMavet, just seeing him. When a person is about to die, that moment he sees the Malach HaMavet. That's enough. I don't want to come back to this world again. Just for that moment. I don't want to come back again. So what happened was, Rav Asher, the Malach HaMavet comes to him and he says to him, Gabriel, he says to him, it's time to go, Rebbe. Why? He says it's time for your successor to take over. And we have a thing in Shamayim, you cannot rule in your successor's boundaries. That means in Shamayim there is a certain boundary, how long you're supposed to be a ruler, how long you're supposed to be a boss. You cannot go into somebody else's boundaries. That's why, don't want to be a boss. So Rav Ash says, could you give me 40 days? This is why, because I'm going to Shamayim now. This is the end of Hora'ah. Because I need to review all the Talmud by heart. It wasn't written yet. By heart, he was supposed to remember the whole Talmud. How long do you need to remember the whole Talmud? Today, people learn Daf Yomi. How many years it takes? 7 years. If you learn 8 pages, 7.5 pages a day, how long are you going to finish? You finish in 1 year. But I tried doing it once.
You don't know anything.
For not knowing anything, if it's gonna take you all day, it's literally gonna take you all day. You can't do it. 7 pages, 7.5, 8 pages a day. It's impossible. You understand? Unless you're learning Agadah. You understand? He said 40 days. Give me. I'm gonna review all my Talmud, everything. I'm gonna finish everything. After 40 days came, he says, "Could you give me a little overtime?" He says, "Forget about it. Now it's really time for your successor to take over. We gotta go." And he went with him. Neshama left him. After Rav Ashi finished the Gemara, when was the next greatest moment in the Jewish history where a person came and said, "This is halacha"? Over here we get to a machloket of the Achronim. Who is the next greatest successor? Some say it's the Rambam, Rabbeinu Moshe ben Maimon. Hasfaradi. What did he do? Wait, what did he do? He took every single Gemara, Yerushalmi, Bavli, Midrash, everything, and he came up with a book called Mishneh Torah. It was so successful that Moshe Rabbeinu comes to him in a dream and he tells him, "Give me your hand, Hazaku Baruch. Good job, Yashar Koach. I liked it." To this extent. To this extent. Some say the next greatest one was whom? Rabbi Yosef Karo. Yosef Karo. He took all. Guys, we need a shorter version. Let's get this. Let's get down to business. You like that song, right? Let's get it. Shulchan Aruch. Let's put it down. The Ashkenazim say no. Who is the next? The Gra. The Gra. The Chazon. And we're not joking. In the Chazon Ish, when he counts down all the greatest successors of the Jewish history, he counts the last greatest one as the Gra. The Gra for the Ashkenazim. Why? The Gra, by the way, our Gemara is based on the encyclopedical knowledge of the Gra. The Gra, that's why it's called the Vilna Shas. Why Vilna? What was the first Shas, by the way? Anyone here know? The Sonsino Shas. The first Shas was printed in Italy. Who gave permission to print the first Shas? Believe it or not, the Pope. Back then, it was a isur for the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, to print the Shas. Why? If you printed a Shas, you're a heretic. That's why the first Shases didn't have the story of Yoshka inside. It was censored. The story of Yoshka's mother was censored. All those stories, a lot of other things were censored. When the Vilna Shas came along, it copied off those censored Gemarot of the Sonsino, V'chule. So therefore, now our Gemarot, we have the old manuscripts. So they put all those censored stories back inside the Shas. Because Baruch Hashem today, we have freedom of religion. And guys, Rav Victor Miller says, don't think, they asked Rav Victor Miller on July 4th, should we celebrate July 4th? He was very anti all these things. It's July 4th. He says, I think you should take an American flag and hang it around outside of your window. Rav Victor Miller says that. Why? We have to respect the institution that gave us the right, not just to practice freedom of religion, that gave us rights. It was never such a thing in history. I'm about to tell you a couple of stories about Rashi. Rashi lived during the Crusades. The first Crusades, the year 1096. Do you know what the first Crusades were? One French Rasha, they were the worst. The Chachamim used to say, when you step on France and Germany, you could say Kaddish on it. You just take the ground of France and Russia, and France and Germany, take the ground, and you could say Yitgadal v'Yitkadash Shmei Rabbah on it. That's how much Jewish blood was spilled on France and Germany's soil. That's how much. In his time, there was this Rasha, this French bishop. He said, anyone who wants to fight Salah ad-Din, he was the Sultan of the Muslims. The Muslims, after Muhammad died, split into two camps. One was from one wife, he had two wives. He had 100 wives, but two main ones. One was from one wife, Fatima. One was, I don't know. Exactly. So he had two wives, and they broke into two, Shiite Sunnis. That's where it came out. Eventually, that's what it came out to be. Salah ad-Din, he was the warrior. He took over Egypt. He liked Jews, by the way. Today, he would be the greatest anti-Semite. But back then, it was considered that he liked Jews. He took over Israel. He was the first one to take over Israel as part of the Muslim empire. The Egyptian, that's where the Sultan was, in Egypt. After he took over, the Kritmach said, what is this? JC walked over there. If you go to Kever David HaMelech, Lo Aleinu, Klal Yisrael, we have to daven for this. Right by Kever David HaMelech, you have a room over there. You know what they call that room? The Last Supper. Maybe the last club dance he had over there. The last his last supper was over there, right by David HaMelech's thing. You ever been to David HaMelech? You never been to David HaMelech, right? You've been there, right there. Every time you go to David HaMelech, every hour or two, huge people, Greek Orthodox, this or that. You've been there with huge crosses, like it's coming with Ketoret. what do you call that Ketoret?
Ispandut.
Ispandut. They come inside, and when they come in, the Israeli police kick the Jews out. It's their time for mass, mass prayer, whatever the heck they do. It's their time to do that.
Like church over there?
They have Greek Orthodox, Armenian Orthodox.
Very close, where is very?
Israel, Yerushalayim is here, Kotel HaMaravi. You take one wrong turn, you're with all the Avodah Zaras. In Eretz Israel, all the worst crowd. The Chachamim say you can't even take a step over there, and they're worse hating Jews than Muslims. That's saying a lot.
In the land
in Yerushalayim, forget land of Israel. In Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, Ir David. You're praying by David HaMelech. Happened to me when I was there. I was saying to you by David HaMelech's kever. Suddenly, I looked to my right, big. I don't want to say Shti Va'erev, right in front of. What is this guy? Akaz Vetza, that guy was the son of David HaMelech. Slicha, I thought he was the son of God. I thought the ghost came down with the Holy Spirit, and he was with Mary, and they had a baby. How is he the son of David HaMelech? You know who came up with this argument? The Ramban, Nachmanides. He had a 3-day argument, not discourse. What do you call those things? Debate with Pablo Cristiani. I told you guys this once, right? They made a Hollywood movie out of it like 40, 50 years ago. And one of his questions he gave to the Greek Max, he says, "How do you guys say that JC is the descendant of King David if we know descendants come from whose side? Father or mother? Father's side. But you say his father is God. So how is he descendant of King David?" And he was like, he didn't know what to say back to him. That was one of the first times. The Ramban was the one who came up with this question. Till today, Jews are using it. Till today, they don't know what to say. How come they take so many nefashot? You know why? They use what the snake did. Money and women. That's how they tempt women. The women. That's how they tempt Jewish souls. That's how they tempt them. Money. Number one thing, money. And they, of course, they fall for it. There's not all nishamot come Monday night shiur, Thursday night shiur, and I'm sure you guys hear shiurim all week. Some nishamot, they just live for what?
Now.
Lasot kesef. What now I have to do? That's it. They don't care about anything else in life. They die. They this. That. Who cares? Nobody remembers them. Nobody remembers them. In France and Germany, there was this bishop. He said, whoever wants to fight for God gets a free pass. You ever played Monopoly? You get a free pass to get out of prison. And back then, it was unlike today. Whoever goes to prison was whoever stole. Back then, you go to prison if you're a serial killer. Everyone there was a serial killer. And suddenly you find over there serial killers. I don't want to say the words even. The worst people on the planet, they put on them clothing of the Crusaders. The Duke comes, the bishop takes his sword. I knight you. Like this, 50,000 rapists, killers, serial killers, murderers, the worst people you could think of. Knights of the King Arthur. And they're going right now by foot from France to Eretz Israel. And on the way, who do they pass? Specifically, every Jewish settlement on the way. Rashi wrote a kina. Kina is a poem on the death of so many Jewish settlements during that time in 1096 in the First Crusade. So many! Rashi cries, you know how many Jews were buried alive, were killed, were taken by force, were destroyed. This happened during Rashi's time. Rashi only lived till the age of 65. He didn't even get to his 65th birthday. He passed away 64 and a half years old. He witnessed the first crusade, the first. It was one of the worst times. It was so bad, the people in Europe thought Mashiach was coming. They thought this was Gog Magog. Because Daniel, the prophet, quote unquote, because Gemara doesn't call him a prophet, Daniel says, how is Mashiach going to come? The king of the north is going to fight against the king of the south. Everybody's breaking their heads. Who is the king of the north? And who's the king of the south? You understand? Back then, that's what they thought. It was the Muslims versus the Cretenarchs. And Rashi was right in the middle. There's a famous story about a duke called Godfrey of Boulogne. He heard about Rashi. He was let's call him, what do you call those goyim? Goyei Tzedek. God-fearing. God-fearing goy. He said, I'm going to get a bracha from Rashi. It's a legend. I'm going to get a bracha from Rashi before I go to the crusade. Now these guys really believed in what they were doing. These crusaders. He stops. Rashi lived in Troyes, France. Troyes. He never got money, by the way, for the Rabbanut. He was a rabbi for free. He held like the Rambam. Rambam held like him. They never knew each other, Rambam and Rashi, even though they lived at the same time. He held that a rabbi is not allowed to teach for money. Rashi held. Not many rabbis held. Not many Rishonim hold like that. Rashi held like that, so therefore he worked as a winemaker. Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Cabernet this, Merlot. Where all these grapes come from? Where do they come from?
France.
From France. Where do the French get them from?
Italy.
From Yerushalayim, Yerakodesh. Why do you think one of the 7 species is grapes? When the Babylonians and the Romans came to fight, when the Romans came to destroy the Beit HaMikdash, you think they came one army? There was the 6th Regiment, 9th Regiment, 12th Regiment. The French came. France back then was called Gaul. It wasn't called France. It was called Gaul.
Yeah.
One of the way Julius Caesar, the lover of the Jews, lover of the Reformed Jews, but the hater of the religious Jews. Don't forget that in history. How did he become so great? Who did he defeat? Gaul, France. When he came to destroy, when the army of Vespasian came to destroy Yerushalayim, what was one of the biggest armies with him? The soldiers of Gaul. And they came when they destroyed Yerushalayim. They took from Yerushalayim, Yerakodesh, vines from Eretz Yisrael, and they planted it in France. They say Chardonnay is really Sha'ar Yerushalayim. That's what they say. I don't know if it has any basis to it, but don't forget, Eretz Yisrael was blessed with 7 species. When God says this land is blessed with 7 species, it means the best. Now, for example, you take Cabernet and you plant it in, in Russia. It's not going to grow. It'll grow, but it won't be so good. All the wines in the world, you put it in Israeli soil, it comes out the best. Why? It comes back to the motherland. It's coming back to its mom, to the mother. It's coming back to the Shekhinah. That's where it was originally from. That's where it was originally from. So this Godfrey of Bulin, he comes to Rashi, he says, I want to get a bracha from you. Rashi says, I don't want to talk to you. Why? He says, Al tifnu ele elelim. You're not allowed to turn to Avodah Zarah. Back then, the Crusaders used to wear, what did they used to wear on their thing? Oh, crook, I can't look at you. But he says, I don't have to look at you anyways. He says, you're going to come back with 3 horses and 2 men.
Who was that?
Rashi said this to Godfrey of Bulin.
Oh yeah.
The Duke. You're gonna come back with 3 horses, and he says, if I come back with 3 horses and 3 men, or with one man and 3 horses, I'm gonna put your head on a pike. He tells Rashi. Rashi says, Saleh shalom v'al tachzor leshalom. Go and don't come back. Godfrey of Bulin, he really went and he defeated Salah ad-Din for like 15 days. That was it. Then the Muslims came and they showed them where the Me'efo Adag. I don't want to finish the saying. When Godfrey came back, he really came back with 3 men, with 3 horses and 2 men, and they were passing by Troyes. He said, "I'm gonna chop this." He came back. It was 3, and he said, "You're gonna come back with 3 and 1." And he comes back with 3 horses and 2 men. As they were passing through the gate, from the gate fell down, cracks the head of one of the soldiers, and it was left, as Rashi prophesied, 3 horses and 1 man. And he ran for his life. He never met Rashi. There's a famous story of Rashi's mother. Rashi's mother. When she was pregnant, we all know the story of Rashi's mom, how she got pregnant. She wasn't supposed to get pregnant. She was a very old lady, and Rashi's father was a diamond merchant. This story is brought back in the book. Don't think I'm making up stuff. I'll tell you the source. Seder Hadorot. Sefer Hadorot. That's where this story is brought down. That his father was a diamond merchant, and the priests wanted the diamond to put in the eye of their Yoshka. And they basically coaxed him onto a ship. And they asked him, they said, "You're not getting off this until you give us the diamond. For kesef maleh. We're going to buy it from you kesef maleh." By the way, if you force somebody to sell something to you, you're a ganav.
They don't want to sell.
They don't want to sell, but you're forcing them to sell, you're a ganav. You're pasul le'edut. It's called asmachta. It's one of the things that's psulim la'edud. I'm forcing you to sell it. I get paying you full price. You're a ganav, and you're pasul to be a witness. So don't get me off. So they went, and when he took out the diamond, something it was a sapphire. He made it like he slipped, and he threw whatever how much it was worth into the ocean. And a bat kol came out, said, "You're gonna have a child that will light up Am Yisrael just like this." This sapphire or this diamond, and he had a child, and he named him Shlomo. Shlomo ben Yitzchak. What was the Ari Kadosh's name? Yitzchak ben Shlomo. Both of them, Rashi Tevot Shevi. Alita lemarom. Moshe Rabbeinu went up to heaven, and he came back with Shevi, with hostages. Who were those hostages? Shimon ben Yochai, Shevi. Yitzchak ben Shlomo, the Ari Kadosh, also Shevi. Shalom ben Yitzchak, that's the Rashash, and also Shlomo ben Yitzchak ben Shlomo, Shalom ben Yitzchak, and Shlomo ben Yitzchak. All of them Rashi Tevot, and some also add a Baal Shem Tov. Yisrael ben Sarah. For that they put the mother's name. Ashkenazi. For that they put the mother's name. Yisrael ben Sarah. Inside, these are the 4 and 5 nishamot that really put Am Yisrael inside on the map. On the map, you know, if you go to Troyes today in France, you're going to have a whole monument over there for Rashi. In the heart over there, Rashi. Anyways, Rashi's mother, when she was pregnant, and a goy was trying to trample her to death. It's a famous story that she went into the wall. There was an alleyway, and the wall bended in for her. And it passed, and didn't. And they say till today that wall is over there, as the concrete with the shape of a woman. And there's a famous story. I'm not going to tell you the story today about a guy. I have a book. But a guy, the same story happened to him. He made fun of Rashi's story like this. He was one of those intellectuals. And his car, basically he went to show his daughter how airplanes work. And his car, the same day that he made fun of the story of Rashi's mother, he put his car on reverse. You know, Israelis have those handbrakes. He put the handbrakes, but the car was on a hill. And his daughter was standing by a tree. And the car just went. And he was trying to catch the car to put the handbrakes on, but the car kept on going. Was going to smash his daughter to pieces. He got married at the age of 35, and he had one daughter. And the car was heading for the girl, and the car, he hears how it hits the tree.
Where's the girl?
And he goes and looks. He thought his daughter was dead for sure, and he sees as if like and there was like, you know, sometimes you have a tree, and there's like this indentation in the tree, and he said, I don't want to swear this indentation wasn't there beforehand. And he said, from that day on, if you tell me stories of Rashi's mother, this time I believe anything you say. True story, happened maybe 10 years ago. I have a book like this. It's by Rav Chaim Walder. I think it's translated in English. He's one of the head of Arachim. I bought it. My wife bought me this book about a week ago. It's maybe 115 pages. I finished it all in one day.
Oh my God.
That's how addicted I was to it. It's an amazing book full of Yirat Shamayim, crazy stories. We'll talk about it on Monday night, Bezrat Hashem, but crazy stuff. One thing I want to say about Rashi, we'll end it here because it's already late. One last thing I want to say about Rashi. I want to say from the Shla Kadosh. For example, the Shla says that Rashi fasted 613 days before he wrote his Perush on Rashi, on the Torah, 613 days. One thing I want to tell you guys. How does Rashi start his Perush on the Torah? He says, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Who is Rabbi Yitzchak? Everyone asks. So mostly everyone says that Rabbi Yitzchak was his father. His father. Why? And unlike other commentators that day, in those days, today too, Rashi doesn't have an introduction to his Perush. There's no introduction. Ramban has an introduction. Ibn Ezra has an introduction. Everyone today, Shulchan Aruch has Rambam introduction. And I always tell the people, when you buy a book, never skip the introduction. It's the juiciest part of the whole book. And everyone skips the introduction. It's the part that you have to read it. That's how you know the soul of the person writing the Sefer, the Machaber. So Rashi doesn't have an introduction. You know how he starts his book, Rashi? He has one sentence how he starts. He says, everyone could explain the Torah. I'm here to explain it in its simplest form. That's how he starts the whole Perush. And how does he start Gesundheit? How does he start the Perush? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. So all of the parts, why did he say Amar Rabbi Yitzchak? Rashi's coming to teach us a very important lesson called Kibud Avayim. inside Rashi's Perush, and I'm not going to go through Rashi, went to Galut, this, that. Rashi is saying over here, all my Torah I got from my father. But the problem is, according to many historians, Rashi's father wasn't a Talmid Chacham. How is Rashi saying all of his Torah is from his father?
He paid for him to go to school.
I don't know if he paid for his... we don't know a lot about Rashi's youth. We do know his uncle was Rabbi Shimon HaZaken, one of the greatest Talmidei Chachamim who learned from Rabbeinu Gershom Me'or HaGolah. I'm not going to get into it right now. But Rashi says, all my Torah, he's giving credit to his father. Why is he doing that?
Give him life.
Forget about giving him life. If it wasn't for that story, how he threw the sapphire in, and the Chidah says Rashi's grandfather, he was a shamash in the Bet HaKnesset. Shamash. You know how he used to clean the Bet HaKnesset? He had a long beard. He used to take his beard and he used to, like Clorox wipes. He used to clean the Bet HaKnesset. Like Yoshua, B'diuk. That's how Rashi says, Rashi's grandfather, Chidah says. That was his zechut that he got Rashi. He says, all my Torah that I'm teaching you, none of it is mine. Rashi is saying in the first sentence, everything I'm building on my predecessors. And that's why Rashi, unlike many other Rishonim, is one of the only Mefarshim to ever say on a pasuk, I don't know the meaning of it. You're never going to find it almost in any other Mefarish. If they don't know, what do? They skip it. He'll have the pasuk and he'll say, Lo yadati pirusho. Why is he telling you that? No.
It's okay not to know.
It's okay not to know, and maybe you're going to know. And if you know, Rashi's telling you, you write the Perush. I only ever saw this in one other rabbi, the Ben Ish Chai. On his book, Ben Yoyada and the Gemara, he writes on this. He doesn't write, I don't know. He says, you the reader, you find out the Perush. He doesn't say, I don't know, but he says, you the reader, you find out the Perush. I saw this once in Ben Yoyada. It's not just about humbleness. It's about wanting to teach. Rabbeinu Tam, you know, we have Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. Not that they wrote those tefillin. I'm not going to get into it right now. Rabbeinu Tam said, whatever my grandfather did, because Rashi had 3 daughters, Yocheved, Rachel was the third one. Who was the middle one's name? The middle one, I forgot her name, but from Yocheved, the eldest one, came out all the Balei Tosafot. And he never had any sons. He taught his daughters Torah. And the Rashi said, for all my Torah that I have and I ever will have, I'm sorry, I messed up. Rabbeinu Tam, which was his grandson from his first daughter, he said, whatever my grandfather did, I could do too. On the Gemara, whatever he did, I could do it. Only one thing I cannot do. His Perush on the Tanakh. I can't touch that. Over 200 Perushim. I saw it today. 200 commentators on Rashi. What is Rashi coming to teach us? And the funny thing is, you learn Rashi, my son learns Rashi, I learn Rashi, you learn Rashi, and we all enjoy it differently. Because Rashi is Rashi Tevot, Reish, Rabban, Shin, Shel, Yud Yisrael, the Rebbe of all Klal Yisrael. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Hanan ben Akashia Omer, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את